Ladies and gents, welcome back. Things are escalating when it comes to the investigation, or lack thereof, into election interference from the Chinese Communist Party in our elections here in Canada, especially through the Trudeau Foundation. Revelations coming from articles out of the Globe and Mail recently, leading to, well, the entire board resigning from the Trudeau Foundation. Now, Pierre Poilievre has questions to the special rapporteur that was hired by Trudeau to look into the allegations of election interference. And, well, it turns out he was a board member himself of the Trudeau Foundation. Here's from True North. Pierre Poilievre sends letter to special rapporteur Johnston questioning his objectivity. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is questioning special rapporteur David Johnston's ability to be objective in his investigation of the Chinese election interference. A very brief message he shows out here in his public inquiry into the rapporteur. Dear rapporteur, explain this. How will you investigate Beijing's donations to the Trudeau Foundation when you were part of the Trudeau Foundation? Awaiting your answer. And of course, David Johnston was a member of the Trudeau Foundation. He was removed from the board listing, well, only when the media found out about it. And then, well, of course, yesterday was the announcement that came out. We reported on this statement from Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation, resignation of the board of directors and the president and CEO. The entire board jumping ship like rats from a sinking ship. The circumstances created by the politicization of the foundation have made it impossible to continue with the status quo. And the volunteer board of directors has resigned, as has the president and CEO. Oh, God. Well, here's the thing. I reported on this yesterday. I'll leave a link in the description down below. We can go into more detail. But the Globe and Mail also bringing out more revelations of what was going on in the Trudeau Foundation. Justin Trudeau's brother's signature is literally on the agreement to take the donation, evidently. So much for the shallow argument Trudeau's fart chasers try to make that the Trudeau family is involved in the involved in the organization in name only. There it is by Corey Morgan on Twitter here. And this is the Globe and Mail article. Unreturnable Chinese donation triggered governance crisis at the Trudeau Foundation. Well, we saw that in recent times. Now, Trudeau here looks like shaking hands with one of the businessmen who was responsible for giving those donations. Here's the real Andy Lee show on Twitter saying Justin Trudeau meets with businessman Niu Gangsheng at the Meech Lake House short months after his brother Alexandra Trudeau accepted the tainted donation to the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation that is claimed to have originated from the Chinese government to buy influence. The same donators also gave to University of Montreal under the Trudeau name of $550,000. There was a pledge for $800,000, but not all of it went through. A mark of how quality agreements from China are. Come on, we get with it. Now, Pierre Poilievre taken to the House of Commons here. I'm not going to show the whole clip because there's a lot of don't say this, you're not allowed to say that in Parliament. When he finally gets to say the thing he wants to say, this is the part.
Speaker, Prime Minister has been hiding this for the last 10 years. 10 years ago, he found out that the Trudeau Foundation got $200,000. Over the last 5 years, he's had briefing after briefing warning of interference by Beijing in our elections to support him. And now he's hiding the truth behind a secret committee that will not provide public information. Whatever he's hiding, it must be bad. It must be really bad. How bad?
Yeah, just how bad is it? And how, of course, we need all these secrets. I'll leave a link in the description so you can watch that whole video here. This is from Great White North on Twitter. But these aren't the only calls that Pierre Poilievre are making publicly Your conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, is calling on Twitter to list all accounts owned by the CBC as government-funded media. And of course, this is in, due to recent news that the NPR was given the state-affiliated media organization label on Twitter. And so is the BBC, apparently, after NPR was given it. NPR later threatened to quit Twitter. That's their option. That's an option of theirs. Pierre Poilievre saying we must protect Canadians against disinformation and manipulation by state media. That is what I'm asking Twitter at Elon Musk to accurately label CBC government-funded media. It is a fact. Canadians deserve the facts. And of course, to the tune of $1.4 billion, billion with a B. That's what the government funded the state-run media during the COVID era to propagandize and give people what ended up turning out to be misinformation about all kinds of things during that time. So this open letter to Twitter CEO, I'm writing in respect to Twitter's practice of identifying certain accounts as government-funded media. Twitter's platform uses guidelines to describe the practice as follows. Government-funded media is defined as outlets where government provides some or all of the outlet's funding and may have varying degrees of government involvement over editorial content. Twitter's platform uses guidelines to refer to a source that describes the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation as a publicly funded broadcaster. The CBC from 2021 to 2022 annual report disclosed that it received almost $1.24 billion, the vast majority of its funding from the Canadian government, and provides a link to that. As a result, and the interest of transparency, I believe that Twitter should apply the government-funded media label to CBC's various news-related accounts, including CBC, CBC News, and CBC Alerts. Sincerely, Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the official opposition. And of course, you know, this is big news in Canada. And well, after BBC had theirs labeled the state affiliated media, Elon Musk sat down for an interview with a BBC reporter, and hilarity ensued as they tried to have a gotcha moment, courtesy of Mario Nawfal on Twitter here, Elon Musk's BBC Takedown. They tries to label Twitter as a platform for hate speech, and when Musk asks, well, can you give me one example? This happens.
There's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
what hate speech are you talking about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
but just a personal anecdote, like what do you? I don't.
Personally, for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content, yeah, personally. But I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
So you see more hate speech personally?
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples.
I'm not saying anything.
And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
You
said actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second.
You
said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
You can't give
Ladies and gents, state-affiliated media reporting right here at its best.
a single one.
And I'm saying,
Then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
That's false.
no. What I claimed,
You just lied.
No. What I claimed was there are many
You just lied.
organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on
Give
my
me
feed
one
or
example.
not. I mean, right, and
Literally
if you
can't
look at
name
something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK, they will say that. So
Look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a
Right.
single example, and you can't name one.
right, and as I've already said, I don't use that feed. But
Well, then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
That's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know there's hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time.
Wow.
COVID misinformation.
Wow, indeed. Let's move on. He made a claim, can't back up that claim, and well, let's just move on. Let's just agree to disagree on the thing that is clearly just not true. Anyway, oh, too good. So all these different agencies are getting the government-funded media. At first, it was state-affiliated media, then it turned to government-funded media. And now if you look at the BBC, it is now publicly funded media. So they watered it down. They walked it back just a little bit. I think they should be getting the gray check mark, though. I think as a government organization, not a journalistic organization, which is what the yellow check mark is all about. It turns out Twitter may be they've threatened to remove the verified check marks, the old legacy ones, from accounts that are not paying for the Twitter Blue feature. If you like any social platforms and you use them a lot, it's recommended that you just pay for the service that you use, especially if you use it quite a lot. And well, these things take money to run, so it's people's contributions that ought to be put into them. I personally pay for Twitter and I pay for YouTube because I use these services quite a lot. But this is, it's up to you if you want to sign up or if you want to watch ads. Basically, is what it is. But CBC, of course, somehow slipped through the cracks when it came to this one. Hopefully, the calls from Pierre Poilievre, myself, and many others on Twitter wind up with the CBC News and all the affiliate channels getting the same treatment. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about this whole thing, and we'll see you in the next one. Don't miss out on tonight's premiere. I had Marcel Ernie on the podcast, and they'll be premiering tonight at 9 Eastern. That's at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Check it out. We'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.